Hello YouTube, we're talking evolving rep range today, and we're finally getting to the stage of splitting hair, discussing details, and that's, to me, the best part. That's when it gets fun. So I've established pretty much everything to know about evolving rep range in broad terms. Now we're going to talk about when to progress from them. All right? We've discussed how to progress, how much weight you should add, but when does that happen? Because in reality, when you look at static rep ranges, well, a 5x5 is easy. You get the 5x5 and you add weight and you move on. What about an evolving rep range? How does that work? Because the numbers are going to differ. And you might think to yourself, well, it's easy. I'm just going to use the same progression tactics that we use for static rep ranges. And if you were to do that, technically what are you doing? You're turning evolving rep ranges into static rep ranges. If you do 4 sets of 8 to 12, right? And you wait until you get 12 reps for the 4 sets to progress. What did you just do? You just did a 4x12, all right? With what I would call a transition period that started at 8 reps. It's not terrible. It's better than doing a straight up 4x12 by a mile, but it's still not an evolving rep range because you basically surrendered the flexibility of the rep range because you wanted to get the max amount of rep each time. This is not what we need, all right? So put that in your head. The max amount of reps is going to be a threshold that you do not go above. It doesn't mean that you need to meet it every single time. It's just a way for you to tell yourself, okay, I'm stopping there. This is the max amount of reps I'm willing to do on that range. And that's it. But you're not going to replicate that effort several times. And I would also argue you shouldn't be able to replicate it because we want your strength to depreciate as the set advances. All right? So if you have 4 sets within the evolving rep range, you need to lose reps as you advance. It's fine to have 2 sets with the same amount of reps that could be explained by better technique, you're better warmed up, you're cued in, or just because you underestimated the amount of strength that you had for the day. But if you can repeat it for 3 sets, you messed up in my opinion. So the depreciation of the reps is a natural phenomenon that is going to happen with evolving rep range. It is normal. It needs to happen. And that also means that your ability to go up in weight is not going to be stopped by it. Actually, it's going to be directly correlated with it because it's going to be up to you to decide at what point jumping up in weight is going to feel comfortable. For example, you do a 6x10 for 4 sets. If you get 10, 10, 10, 10, you should have jumped in weight a long time ago. If you get 10, 10, 9, 9, I'm still of the opinion that you should have jumped in weight at least a week or 2 ago. But if you get something like 10, 9, 8, 7, that resembles something that is going to be correlated with the ability to replicate an effort with the similar amount of sets, with the same rep range, but with more weight. That to me shows that. And that is the science, that is the practice you're going to have to develop with evolving rep range. When you set it up to accumulate quality volume, of course, but also keep in mind when you do it, does the amount of set I'm going to do and the amount of reps within the sets represent a realistic ability to then go up in weight and replicate the effort? And that is what is the most complicated about that, basically, because the only way to be sure it works is to program it on paper and then try it. Before you try it, you don't know, because even though it is true that the ability to do reps or the ability to do 1 rep maxes is a skill, the way it's going to transfer into a superior weight, you cannot guess. You need to experiment it. For example, I personally for squats do 4, 5, 4, 6, 5, 4, 7, 5, 3, 8, 6, 4. Does that mean that at 8, 6, 4 I go up in weight? Yes. Why? Because the ability to do 8, 6, 4 in my personal case correlates with the ability to do 4 reps of squat with an extra 10 pounds on the bar. That's something I found. Now, is it something that took me a lot of time to find? No. Why? Because you're going to find that just like with how you set up evolving rep ranges, that is a video I made already, some things make sense and some don't. Like at face value, they don't. For example, if my rep range stopped at 654, right? At 654 on squats, I'm going to jump 10 pounds. Is that realistic? Does a tonnage that is a tonnage of 654, so a total of 15, represent the ability to then go back to 4 reps with 10 extra pounds? No. In my case, I need 8, 6, 4. So in this case, it is a total tonnage of 18 that is going to represent that ability to jump in weight. This is pure mathematics. This is just programming. It's how it is. And this is the portion of evolving rep ranges that makes them more complicated than static rep ranges, but also explains what they're so flexible is, because you have to take all those variables into account, because if you don't, it doesn't work. So when do you jump in weight? You jump in weight when you've demonstrated the ability to replicate the effort, fight muscular failure, and go back to baseline within the rep range to be able to then showcase the same type of effort but with more weight. If you go up in weight and next session you try to apply the same rep range and you fail, meaning that you fall underneath the threshold, so to get back to the 6 to 10 rep range, you get 6 and then 5 and 4, 4. You failed. Your calculations were wrong. Your recovery was messed up somewhere. Your rep range experience failed, because every single transition should be smooth. If every transition of your rep range is a mayhem and you fail like 40% of the time, you need to go back to the drawing board. You need to redo it because it's not normal. I can count on the number, it never happened. Let's be straight up. I never failed a transition for squats or deadlifts with the evolving rep range. I failed for upper body lifts because my weight jumps were too high. So I reduced it and now I'm doing better. But if failure happens, it's a proof that something is wrong. So you need to get back to it and focus on it. So that's when you jump. And when you jump, and that might be a topic for a different video on evolving rep range, what happens when you jump? Because I just told you that for me, the action of jumping involves a modification of sets. This is not something that is absolutely necessary for evolving rep range, because I'm running a ton of 8 to 12 for 4 sets strict, only 4 sets. But for things that are going to be strength work oriented, like your deadlift, your squat, your bench press, all of that, you can consider doing evolving sets. Why? Because the amount of tonnage you accumulate when you do strength work in lower rep ranges is not as high as what you get with your accessories and variations, which is basically the bulk of your volume, or at least it should be in my opinion. So lowering your reps for the strength work from 3 to 1 and having an evolution within that from 1 to 3 is less of an impact on tonnage, so you keep your stability. And that's, I think, something I'm going to discuss next video on evolving rep range. So today it was only focused on when to jump. Next week I'm going to explain to you how to jump. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.